Hey yo, I'm back again, and whilst I'm working on my Batman Beyond video, I thought why not look at the DC Animated Universe movies that are a part of this universe. There's one movie on this list that I actually haven't seen until recording this video, which will be interesting, and two others that I haven't watched in an extremely long time. So let's start with the first DC Animated Universe movie, which actually came out a year into Batman the Animated Series run in 1993. Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. Fuck, I love this movie. But before we get into my complete honest and biased opinion since I grew up watching this movie, let's talk about the plot of the movie. So what happens in this movie? Well, we start off with honestly some kick-ass opening credits with a full orchestra, which honestly just shows how good the series composer Shirley Walker really is, especially with having more money behind her work, because this sounds awesome. Anywho, the movie starts off with a new character named the Phantasm coming to Gotham as they're killing off mobsters, whilst Batman's being framed for the murders. It's mainly this guy named Arthur Reeves is the one that's framing Batman for these murders. Coincidentally, an ex-fling of Bruce's, Andrea Beaumont, voiced by Lois Lane herself, Dana Delaney, comes back to Gotham after disappearing for 10 years. We get flashbacks that develop Bruce and Andrea's previous relationship, as we get to see glimpses of Batman's origins as Bruce goes to stop a robbery by dressing up in black clothing. We even get to see Bruce meet Andrea's father, Carl, as the mob boss Salvatore Valestra pays him a visit, which already gets you suspicious about what Andrea's dad's up to. Also with the flashbacks, we get to see Bruce's struggle with feeling like he needs to be Batman for his parents' sake compared to potentially being happy with Andrea. It gets to the point where Bruce is begging at his parents' grave to let him be happy with Andrea, and as he is, Andrea comes up to him, which I fucking love this transition out of the flashback. We even see that Valestra's scared for his life as he thinks that Batman's knocking out all the mobsters, as Batman finds out the full list of mobsters that were associated with Valestra, and that the Phantasm might potentially be after. We see in more flashbacks that Bruce proposes to Andrea as she says yes, so Bruce takes her home as her father seems to have company, but we see one thug standing outside looking like someone in particular. The next day, Andrea gives Bruce the ring back as she can't commit to his proposal, so Bruce decides to become Batman with an absolute peak suit-up sequence. We then go back to Valestra as he goes to visit the Joker in an old abandoned exhibition that Bruce and Andrea visited 10 years ago, where Valestra asks for the Joker's protection. The Joker ends up saying that he will protect him. Bruce is still finding out what Andrea's father has to do with the mobsters, as he's the one connecting, and also he goes to talk to Andrea, where she basically just straight up says that she knows that Bruce is Batman. Later that night, the Phantasm goes to take down Valestra, but as they do, the Joker already killed him, and then he gets proof that it isn't Batman killing off the mobsters, as the Joker makes the building explode. Batman catches up to the Phantasm as they sound like Andrea's father, but the cops catch up to try and take Batman in, as he then has to escape the cops. He almost gets caught, and his mask even rips off as he manages to get away as Andrea gives Bruce a lift before his identity is exposed to the police. Andrea ends up explaining in a flashback that Andrea's father owned the mob money, as they then made a run for it as he couldn't pay them back. Bruce thinks that the Phantasm is her father, but they seem to hit it off once again as Bruce tells her that you'll have to face off against her father, but she says that she doesn't need him. But as Bruce is looking at the photos with him and Andrea, he sees the photo of the mob and Andrea's father, and he discovers that one of the mobsters is the Joker before he became the Joker. Speaking of the Joker, he goes to see Arthur and tells him that it isn't Batman that's killing off the mobsters, and that it's a new face in town as they're both probably next. The Joker uses laughing gas on Arthur as Batman goes to interrogate him as he's in the hospital, as he wants to know why he went after Arthur. He ends up confessing to Batman that he sold Andrea's father to the mob, as he knew where they ran off to. He then goes off to Andrea's as the Joker rings and tries to blow her up with a bomb without knowing that she isn't there, and that Batman's there instead. We then get the reveal that Andrea is the Phantasm as we see that thug that ends up being the Joker walking out of her place after killing her father. The Phantasm approaches the Joker as she reveals herself to him, and they end up fighting for a bit until the Joker ends up activating a giant fan as Batman saves Andrea. Batman confronts her as he knows that her father isn't dead, and this shit is so good.
But Andy, what will vengeance solve?
If anyone knows the answer to that, Bruce, it's you.
But Batman ends up fighting the Joker through a miniature version of Gotham as the Joker tells him that the whole place is going to blow up in 20 minutes. The Joker tries to get away with a jetpack, but Batman ends up stopping him as Andrea confronts the Joker, as Batman tells her to run as the place is going to blow up. She says that it's all going to end tonight as the whole place starts to blow up. We get the best fucking Joker laugh ever. But Andrea and the Joker disappear in a cloud of smoke as Batman falls into the sewers and ends up escaping the explosion because of that. The movie ends on a slightly optimistic note as Alfred reassures Bruce that he did the right thing, and when he sees Andrea's amulet shine as he ends up grabbing it and we see Andrea's on a boat as she's alone. We then end with Batman looking into the night sky as the bat signal lights up as he grapples towards the camera. This movie fucking rocks. I love how this movie dives into the scenario with what if Bruce ended up finding happiness, even for a little while. It's a really interesting idea to explore, and this movie does it amazingly, where he struggles to feel like that he deserves it, and how he feels like that he needs to be Batman. Also, the plot with the new character, the Phantasm, coming to Gotham to kill mobsters, where Batman's being framed for it, is really good, where the Phantasm looks similar to Batman, but god, look at this design. You can't tell me that the Phantasm doesn't look fucking awesome. And using Andrea's dad's voice for the character works so well. Stacey Keach has such an awesome voice as the Phantasm that's honestly quite menacing but cold, and it works perfectly for the character. Also, you have the cherry on top with having the Joker in this movie, where he's even a part of the mob before becoming the Joker, and ends up becoming the main villain for the second half of the movie, and it's honestly excellent. Even considering the show itself, I think the Joker's at his absolute best here in this movie. He's menacing, disturbing, but also has some great jokes as well, which is what you want from the Joker. Everything in this movie is absolutely top notch, as the crew that worked on Batman the Animated Series got more time and money to work on this. Everything from the voice acting to the animation is honestly amazing, and as I said at the start, Shirley Walker's music is honestly masterful. This movie was a theatrical release, but unfortunately it flopped in cinemas, where it ended up making money with VHS and DVD sales. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm going to say that this movie will be number 1 because I've seen it countless times and I love it. Shit, I even own it on Blu-ray. Like, this, you couldn't buy this here in Australia. I had to get it shipped from another country. Apparently the 4K version that released a few months ago, you can actually buy in the stores though. By the way, you should definitely buy the movie. This is interesting. This movie came out during the last year of the new Batman Adventures before it ended at the start of 1999. This movie starts with some really dated CGI effects as some men are going through the Antarctic in a submarine. We follow Mr. Freeze as he goes fishing with polar bears to end up giving the fish to an Eskimo with him. Mr. Freeze visits Nora as the men in the submarine crash in and accidentally break the tank Nora was in as the 2 polar bears save them. Mr. Freeze suits up and thinks that Nora is dead as he freezes them all. 2 weeks later, as Batman and Robin take out 2 robbers after robbing a jewelry store. By the way, I really like this shot. Just looks really cool. Mr. Freeze ends up coming back to Gotham as he ends up taking this man named Dr. Gregory Belson after he had payments that he owed after leaving the fundraiser that Bruce and Dick were at. I thought that this was a different voice actor as Mr. Freeze, but no, it's the same voice actor as in the series. Also, I find it interesting that the character design isn't the new Batman Adventures design, since this came out a year after that started, but it's the BTAS designs. Honestly, it makes me glad because I prefer the BTAS designs. So as Bruce ends up leaving the fundraiser, he stops at a massive puddle as he finds Gregory's flipped over car, as we then see that Mr. Freeze is getting him to help Nora as she might have a chance with being saved. They have to get an organ transplant to save her, but they don't find any donors as she has a rare blood type, so Mr. Freeze wants to find someone that's alive that can be a donor. They find out that Barbara Gordon's a perfect blood type for the transplant, so they try and find her as she's out for dinner with Dick. He tries to stop Mr. Freeze, but to no avail, as his polar bears and him not having gadgets made it hard to do so. He goes on the chase for her, and I really don't like the 2D mixed with CGI backgrounds. It looks extremely dated, but it's also weird since they do a few shots of old 2D in the chase sequence. In my opinion, it just really takes you out of the movies. It doesn't feel natural at all. Maybe it was like a budget or a time constraint with this movie, but the 3D does not blend well with the 2D animation in this. But Mr. Freeze ends up getting away as now Commissioner Gordon's in panic because Barbara's gone completely missing. Gordon, Bruce and Bullock visit Dick in hospital as they try to find out why Barbara was taken. As the nurse and everyone else besides from Bruce and Dick leave the room, they use the computer to find out that Barbara has a rare blood type that's the same as Nora's. Barbara manages to get out of her cell by getting into the vents as she finds Nora in a freezing cold room, as Mr. Freeze and Gregory tell Barbara what they're doing. Barbara says no to the scheme as they literally kidnapped her, as she then makes another run for it. She ends up getting to the elevator where she goes up a few floors to find out that she's in an oil rig in the middle of the ocean, where Mr. Freeze gets her. Bruce ends up finding out that Gregory Belson is the person to talk about cryogenics as he visits a science lab that he invests in, as he then connects some dots to find out what Mr. Freeze might potentially need him for. After investigating Gregory's house, they find a potential lead to where they end up getting information out of him to find out that Gregory needed to pay $2.5 million as he had new information about a certain drug. As he finds that out, Gregory rings him to say that he'll have the money that he owes by the time he needs to pay it next week. Batman and Robin investigate the tape to hear a boat siren at the phone call where they figure out that Mr. Freeze is hiding in an oil rig. As Batman and Robin are about to fly off to save Barbara, they find out that they need her for an organ transplant, so they hurry over as Barbara manages to get out before being put to sleep with anesthesia, as the Eskimo boy unplugged the tank before she was going to be put under. Batman and Robin get there as she's running away from Gregory and Mr. Freeze, as Gregory shoots an oil tank and accidentally starts a fire. Batman and Robin deal with the polar bears as they then go to save Barbara, as Mr. Freeze approaches them as they're saving her. She ends up running away from Mr. Freeze, as he then goes and tells Gregory that he needs to finish the operation. Gregory says that he needs to leave as he then pushes Mr. Freeze into some falling rubble as he gets stuck there. Barbara, Batman and Robin save him as they then go to save Nora and the Eskimo boy. Mr. Freeze tells them to come back for him as they take Nora and the Eskimo boy to the Batwing. Batman ends up going back to get Mr. Freeze, and as he has him on his line launcher, rubble hits Batman where Mr. Freeze falls down below, and the animation in this sequence looks really fucking good. But Batman manages to make it back to the Batwing as the place blows up. We then end the movie with Mr. Freeze as he overhears a news report where they think he's dead, but the operation on Nora was a success. Also, this guy was obviously animated to look like Kurt Russell in The Thing, which is a nice little Easter egg. But we end on this shot with Mr. Freeze walking away with ice on his broken leg with his 2 polar bears. Watching Mask of the Phantasm before this movie makes it feel like a downgrade, as it really just feels like a long B-Taz episode. It's still very solid overall, as Mr. Freeze is a great character, and the story's quite interesting, but there's some choices that I really don't like with this movie. Mainly the trend of using 3D animation with 2D animation in this early time for CGI. It makes the movie look so much cheaper, because if they kept it all in 2D, it would actually look a lot better. I know that it wasn't a theatrical release like Mask of the Phantasm, but it's really just the main thing that weighs down this movie so much. One other thing I want to mention is that Mr. Freeze is just a fucking asshole to Barbara, and it's a bit over the top. It made sense in episodes like Heart of Ice, where Ferris Boyle actually screwed him over, giving him a reason to be mad with him, but I think it would have been better if Mr. Freeze was just completely deadpan with Barbara like he is with most other characters in the show. I still enjoyed the movie quite a bit, but you know, it's not going to top Mask of the Phantasm. That movie is really hard to top. Oh yeah, I'm fucking ready to watch this again. This, as well as Mask of the Phantasm, is why I wanted to go through and watch these DC Animated Universe movies. So I'm not going to waste time here, let's just watch this one. This movie starts with the Jokers breaking into Gotham mailing, as they're there to steal a system scanner. Batman, obviously being Terry McGinnis, comes in and stops them. He manages to deal with them pretty quickly, but they then manage to get away after taking a chip out of the device they were going to steal. We then get the opening credits on a black screen. As we then go to the Batcave as we see Terry getting back, he tells Bruce what's happening with the Jokers. The news goes on talking about how Bruce is going to keep being the lead of Wayne Enterprises, as Bruce says that Price better fit in with the program or leave, as he apparently had to work to get his family's company back. So Terry goes out with his partner Dana to a nightclub as he's almost falling asleep, as she asks him to dance. As he's almost falling asleep at a nightclub, we go back to the Jokers as they give a person in the shadows a chip they stole from the device, as he smashes the chip and hold on. Cheeky Mark Hamill's back as the Joker? Hell yeah, but Bonk's sick of how the Joker's talking to them and he thinks that he's a fake. So the Joker ends up killing Bonk with a gun as he comes out of the shadows and tells the rest of them that a lot's changed, but he wants to hear them say that they're with him. They tell him that they're with him as the Joker gets them to look up where a device they need will be, as we then go to Bruce and Terry to Wayne Enterprises conference. As Bruce is giving a speech, the Joker and the Jokers break in as Bruce can't believe that the Joker's back, as Terry suits up to confront the Joker and his gang. The others manage to steal the device they needed as they then go make a run for it, as Batman has to save people since the Joker set off explosions as they were leaving. Terry tries to question Bruce about the Joker being back, but gets told to just drive, as we then see Tim Drake watching the news report on TV, and then we see Barbara Gordon as she's become the commissioner of the police force. Terry comes up to her to try and get answers as she tells him to listen to Bruce, but Terry pushes for answers and doesn't get any. As he's leaving, he walks by Tim as he's going to go see Barbara. Bruce is investigating the new Joker as Terry tries to find out more about the Joker. Bruce tells him that it can't be the Joker as he's dead and he saw him die. After Terry pushes for more answers, Bruce tells him to give him back the Batsuit. Terry obviously says no and defends himself, as he says that he wants to be Batman and that he's trying to be a better human being for his own sake by being Batman, as Bruce says that he's stupid and he doesn't know what he wants. So Terry throws the bag with the suit in it at Bruce's feet, as we then see him eating cereal in the morning as he's quit being Batman. He even ends up catching up with Dana at the nightclub as he tells her the news, but the Jokers try to kidnap Dana as Terry has to stop them. As that's going on, Ace hears something as he then gets hurt. Bruce comes in to see what's going on as the Joker comes out and gives Bruce some laughing gas as he knows that he's Batman. We go back to the nightclub where Terry has to deal with the Jokers as he manages to get Dana to safety. He then manages to hit the shit out of the Jokers and then now he needs to find out why they're after him, so he tries to ring Bruce. He doesn't answer, so he knows that something's up as he usually answers during the night, so he goes to Wayne Manor to see Ace on the ground as he then sees Bruce infected by the laughing gas and he also sees the Batcave's trashed. Luckily Bruce worked on an antidote earlier, so he directs Terry towards the antidote as he uses it on Bruce. The next day, Barbara comes in to see Bruce as Terry rang her for help, as Terry finally gets her to tell him what happened in the past, where we then get to the best fucking scene of the movie, which is the flashback. Basically, Robin went out one night as Harley Quinn disguised herself as a helpless woman as he saves her, but she ends up knocking Robin out. The Joker comes out to see this, and this fucking reveal is so good, since the last time we saw the Joker, he was looking like this. And yeah. This design sucks. There is no beating around the bush about that. So Bruce and Barbara searched for 3 weeks to find him until the Joker sent them an invitation by using a jack-in-the-box that had an Arkham Asylum straitjacket on it. They arrive at an abandoned Arkham where they hear Harley singing as Bruce and Barbara are walking down the hallways. Eventually Batman finds Harley and the Joker as they end up revealing that it turned Robin to a mini version of the Joker known as JJ. Batman fights the Joker as Batgirl takes on Harley. And eventually Batgirl and Harley take the fight outside as Harley falls off the cliff as Batgirl tries to save her. We see Batman as he's trying to find the Joker, as he then shows Batman a home video of how the Joker made Robin turn into JJ. We see how he used electric shocks and a bunch of chemicals to break him, and as Batman's watching this, we get this fucking awesome moment.
And the dear lad began to share such secrets with me. Secrets that are mine alone to know. Bruce.
I could show this whole speech, it's that amazing, but I would get copyrighted up the arse. Alright, one more clip.
It'd be funny if it weren't so pathetic. No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.
So Batman flies through the window and beats up the Joker, not holding back, and even throws him through the broken window, and alright, I need to show another clip.
I'll break you in two. Oh, Batman, if you had the guts for that kind of fun, you would have done it years ago. I, on the other hand...
The Joker has Batman on the ground as he says that he's lost. He throws JJ the gun to finish off Batman, and whilst he's laughing, he ends up slightly moving the gun to shoot Joker instead of Batman. Tim starts to cry as Batgirl's there to comfort him, as Barbara says that they buried the Joker deep beneath Arkham, and the only other person that knows about it is Barbara's father, James Gordon. Barbara says they never found Harley's body, but Tim ended up getting therapy from Leslie Tompkins. Yeah, remember her from the animated series? The one that comforted Bruce after his parents died? Bruce didn't let Tim be Robin again after that, as he blamed himself for what happened and didn't take on another partner, as Tim eventually went on his own way. So that explains why Tim went and saw Barbara as they check up from time to time. But Barbara explains that he's a telecommunications engineer with a wife and kids, but Terry goes to talk to Tim whilst he's at work. Tim explains he has nothing to do with it and he was just as shocked as everyone else about the Joker's return, as Terry ends up leaving as he's talking. We see that Barbara's helping Terry out as he finds out that Jordan Price, the current CEO of Wayne Enterprises, helped the Joker's gang rob their lab. He finds out by hearing a conversation that Jordan has with the Jokers as they're going to kill Jordan, but Batman comes in to stop them. They end up activating a giant laser from the sky that blows up the boat as Batman saves Jordan and gives the evidence of his involvement to the police. Terry goes back to the Batcave as he tells Bruce that he knows what happened, but now he discovers that only the Robin suit is destroyed. The other suits weren't touched at all, so Terry thinks that Tim definitely has something to do with it. They figured out that the parts that they stole would be used to create a signal jammer that someone like Tim Drake could create as they go to stop Tim. He ends up catching up to him where he ignores him, but he's just a hologram as Batman gets trapped in the room. The Joker talks to him to tell Batman that he got it right, as he's using Tim's body to do whatever he wants, as he has a satellite that can destroy cities with its laser. Batman tries to escape but ends up getting shot by the security system, where he ends up figuring out that throwing a batarang at the main hub will make the security system shut down. Batman gets out to be with Ace as he gets in the Batmobile to hunt down the Joker, and as he's trying to find him, the Joker sends the giant laser after him as it destroys many different buildings. He ends up turning off the laser as Batman goes after the Joker. He arrives as he gets to Ace to deal with Wolf, as he then goes invisible to deal with DD. He gets into the base where he sees Tim knocked down on the ground as he gains consciousness, where Tim tells him that he isn't working with the Joker. But as Tim talks about the Joker and how he never stops seeing him, he ends up electrocuting the suit as he transforms into the Joker. The Joker tells him his plan where he uses Tim for his smarts to do whatever he wants, as he put the Joker's mind into a chip that he plants in the back of his neck. The Joker ends up putting his plan in motion as Batman gets Ace to help knock the Joker over. Joker ends up electrocuting Ace as Batman accidentally gets the laser headed towards their direction, as they don't have much time to leave. They fight for a bit as Terry figures out that he could get the upper hand by just talking a lot, as it really gets on the Joker's nerves, as he ends up hitting Batman with a grenade. The Joker starts to choke him out as he electrocutes the chip in his neck, killing the Joker, and then he saves Tim and leaves just before the place gets destroyed, as it ends up stopping the laser. We then see DD in jail as they get bail, and we see that their grandmother's actually Harley Quinn. No fucking way. But Barbara visits Tim in hospital as Terry walks in, and Tim says that Bruce couldn't have chosen anyone better to put the mask on. As Terry leaves, Bruce comes in to say this.
It's not Batman that makes you worthwhile. It's the other way around. Never tell yourself anything different.
This is a great quote. So Bruce visits Tim and the movie ends with Terry suiting up to fly into the night sky. This movie kicks ass. I know a lot of people like to think that the flashback sequence is by far the best part of this movie, but honestly, the rest of the movie's great as well. I will say that this movie feels like it's two different halves. The first half before the flashback and the second half after the flashback. I like the setup in the first half of the movie more than the second half of the movie, but that's just because I think that the build-up is done really fucking well. The build-up of the Joker coming back with Bruce and Barbara not wanting to say anything about him to Terry is fucking excellent. Let's just get this out of the way. The flashback sequence in this movie is a fucking masterpiece. But I love Batman Beyond. Terry is great as a different version of Batman, and honestly, he's more like a Peter Parker compared to being Bruce Wayne, and it really works for this version of the character as he is different to Bruce. I love the aesthetic of Neo Gotham as it's really interesting and creative, but I will say the Jokers themselves are pretty weak characters. That's probably something I'll get more into when I watch the full show, but as the Jokers go, they're basically just goons for the Joker to use. Speaking about the Joker, the twist is pretty good where they put the Joker's mind into a chip and he planted it onto Tim that would end up taking over him in the future. This movie's really close to being better than Mask of the Phantasm, but you know, Mask of the Phantasm's better. I can't believe that this movie was released in 2003, 4 years after the new Batman Adventures finished. So we start the movie with some goons escorting weapons in crates as Batwoman comes out to stop them. She does so by using the weapons against them, and as she's taking them down, it draws the attention of Batman and Robin as they're in the Batwing. She gets away as she shoots the truck off the road, so Batman and Robin save the truck. We get the opening credits as we then see Bruce talking to Alfred about this Batwoman they spotted earlier. After that, we see Rupert Thorne. Damn, that's a character we haven't seen in a while. As he then goes to visit the Penguin in his secret factory where he's manufacturing weapons, and it's definitely a different voice actor for the Penguin, and I'm not a fan. Sounds more like the Mad Hatter compared to what the Penguin sounds like in this series. But they end up discussing that a Batwoman stopped their shipment of weapons. We then follow the guy that Rupert was with, named Mr. Duquesne, as their daughter Kathy comes in as he's on a phone call about business, where he ends up telling them to find Batwoman and finish her as Kathy leaves. But we then see on the news that everyone's wondering who this Batwoman is as Barbara rings Bruce, and oh no. They're really trying to establish that Bruce and Barbara be fucking? No thanks. Why not just keep Dick there as Barbara's partner? That works 1,000 times better. But Barbara seems to be a bit jealous about this Batwoman thing going on, and Bruce ends up hanging up as he pretends that the call's breaking up. So Bruce ends up taking this woman named Roxanne out for dinner as she gave a presentation at Wayne Enterprises where the bat signal gets lit up, so Bruce suits up. When he gets there, he sees Commissioner Gordon with Detective Bullock as some other lady named Sonya's there, as she shows Batman some of the weapons that were there at the crime scene. He mentions that they're plasma rifles as Bullock has the keys to the truck where he sees the Penguin's logo on the keychain, as they then go to find the Penguin at his factory. Batwoman's already there, and wow, they'd already spoiled who Batwoman is, as the last scene ended with her holding the keys. It's definitely Sonya. But as Batwoman's trying to take out the goons, Batman and Robin show up to take out the goons, as Batwoman mentions that they set charges underneath the place to blow up. It starts to blow up as they manage to get out and they end up trying to find Batwoman. She ends up catching up to them where she explains what was happening there as she tries to fight Batman but only lands one kick and then leaves as Batman tries to follow. Batwoman ends up cutting his line where we see that she ends up at some building, as he follows and takes out some of the goons where he runs into Mr. Duquesne. Kathy questions his father the next day about what happened as he tells her that his guards need to follow her for the next few days as he's having issues with certain people. Kathy ends up leaving where Bruce follows her to try and find out what she's up to, as she then approaches Bruce and she says that she wants to get away from his dad's guards. Bruce helps her as they end up getting away from him and she gives Bruce a lift and introduces herself to him. They end up driving away to chat as the guards end up catching up to her where she lets them take her in as she tells Bruce to call her sometime. That night, Batman sees Gordon as he thinks that Kathy's Batwoman, and as that's going on, Batwoman's listening into the conversation with the Penguin as he's talking to Rupert Thorne about how they don't have a factory anymore. The Penguin ends up spotting Batwoman as she manages to get away. Kathy's father's pissed the next day to find out that he isn't working for the Penguin anymore, as Bruce talks to Roxanne where Kathy ends up walking in where Bruce ends up introducing Kathy to Roxanne. Bullock and Sonya are watching Bruce as she leaves with Kathy, as they end up following them to the Iceberg Lounge. At the lounge, the Penguin comes up to introduce himself to the two, and as he leaves, Bruce tries to find out what Kathy's up to where she just leaves. As she leaves, Batwoman catches up to the Penguin, and that device is familiar. Oh wait, that was at the presentation at Wayne Enterprises, so that means that Roxanne could also be Batwoman. Alright, so I've already figured it out. Since the movie makes it seem like it's already more than one person, I think that it's definitely all three people that I suspected that are going to be Batwoman. So the Penguin sets off an alarm as he's trapped in the chair, where the two goons come out to help him as Bruce sees the two goons walk into his office. Batwoman's kind of getting her ass kicked as Batman ends up coming in to help her as the Penguin has her in her sights. Batwoman gets away as Batman sees Kathy standing there, so he's shocked about what's going on as he ends up escaping where we literally see Bane in the car as he says one word then leaves. What was the point in that? Maybe we'll find out? But Bruce takes Kathy back to her place as we then see Sonya at a train station and Batman shows Sonya the thing that Batwoman used to get the Penguin. We go back to the Batcave where Bruce finds out that Roxanne's probably Batwoman, as she uses the same tech as Batwoman when we then see Roxanne in prison visiting a man named Kevin, who's her boyfriend. She's trying to clear his name as she's been spying on the Penguin, as Kevin tells her that she doesn't want to see her anymore, as he doesn't want her wasting time on him whilst he's in prison. Penguin, Rupert, and Mr. Duquesne, as they go to Bane, and oh, I get it. Bane's going to be the Penguin's new muscle as Bane negotiates a deal with the Penguin. Back at the Batcave, Bruce gets the idea that Batwoman could be more than one person, as he gets Robin to investigate Kathy and Roxanne as he goes out. As he goes out, we see that Batwoman's with Roxanne, and she tells her that Batman's onto Roxanne, as Kathy walks in as well, confirming that Kathy and Roxanne are Batwoman. But as they're talking to Batwoman, she takes off her mask and yep, I was right. Sonya's Batwoman as well. Right after that, we see Batman investigating Kathy's room as a guard spots him and acts like he saw nothing. That's honestly hilarious. But Batman ends up finding a book where he finds out that Sonya's the one that probably introduced Roxanne and Kathy to each other, as they previously had no connections. So Bane ends up going on a boat with the Penguin's men as Batwoman comes to stop them as they're moving weapons. When she does, she gets confronted by Bane where he kicks the shit out of her. Bane then rings the Penguin to let him know that he's got Batwoman, as Batman approaches Sonya about the connection to Kathy and Roxanne, as she admits that she's Batwoman with Kathy and Roxanne. As Sonya admits it to Batman, she's going to shoot him, but Roxanne rings her where she tells her that she hasn't heard back from Kathy, worried that she might be captured, as we then see Bane capture her on the boat. Bane unmasks her, and her father's shocked, where she just fucking outs him, but the Penguin knows that it isn't just her as Batwoman, and as he's trying to find out who else is Batwoman, Batman comes in to stop them. As he's stopping them, Roxanne and Sonya suit up, and then Kathy sets off for the bomb as Batman's saving her. He tries to stop the bomb, but she tells him that he can't stop it without the code. But as they walk out, we see Bane as he has Kathy's father as a hostage, where Kathy saves her father as Batman goes to fight Bane. As they're fighting, the bomb goes off as everyone now has to escape. Robin ends up saving Sonya as she's hurt, as Roxanne goes back in to help Kathy. Bane juices up as Batman manages to beat Bane by leaving just before the boat crashes into the bridge as he falls to his demise. We then see Sonya resigning as Batman talks to her, saying that the city's losing a good cop, as he then gives her evidence that will let Roxanne get Kevin out of prison. The movie ends with Roxanne and Kathy outside of prison as Kevin gets out and Bruce ends up seeing Kathy as he returns her car to her, as they seem to hit it off. This movie's alright. It's not near as interesting as the other three movies, but it just feels like an extended episode of the show. The story itself is pretty standard, but the mystery of who Batwoman is was really predictable. Like, I haven't watched this movie since I was very young, but I figured out who was Batwoman pretty easily. The animation is nice though, since it's basically just the New Adventures of Batman, but in widescreen where it looks like the Justice League Unlimited. But obviously just about Batman. Also find it weird how out of the characters that appear in the show, the only voice actor change is the Penguin, but they didn't get a good replacement either. He really just doesn't sound the part. This is the worst movie yet, but it's not bad. If you wanted it on a scale out of 10, it'd be like a 5 or a 6. Oh, we're really in for some shit here, aren't we? I remember seeing this when it came out and hating it when I saw it, so that's why I never watched it again. We start the movie at Star Labs as Poison Ivy's breaking in with the Floronic Man to steal information off one of their PCs. Also, the Floronic Man is brutalizing them, so obviously it's meant to be more violent than the rest of the universe. So we get the opening credits, which are actually nicely done since it's got like a nice 70s style to them. We then see Batman at the crime scene with Nightwing, as Nightwing finds the file that Poison Ivy stole, which is a classified document about a doctor named Alex Holden, where he ended up transforming into the character Swamp Thing. So Batman leaves with this information as they end up deciding to try and get Harley's help, even though she's gone off the grid. Batman ends up getting more information from Sarge Steele, as we then see Nightwing searching around for Harley Quinn by asking a bunch of different people around Gotham to see if anyone knows where she is. He ends up fighting her in a rip-off Hooters restaurant called Super Babes, where all of the women dress up in skimpy superhero and supervillain costumes, and what is with Harley's voice? It just doesn't sound right at all. It's nothing against Melissa Raunch, but she just doesn't fit the character. Shit, I'd even prefer Tara Strong to do the voice, because at this time, Arlene Sorkin already retired. But one of the men she's serving tries to grab her behind as she puts him in his place. So after finishing her shift, Nightwing ends up following her to her door where she knows that he's there. Nightwing talks to her explaining that he needs her help, but she tells him that she's done with all the costume stuff and she wants to live a normal life. Nightwing pushes it a bit too far by mentioning that she hasn't contacted a parole officer in months and that he could just take her to jail, so that's when she starts to fight him. They fight in an alleyway until she manages to infect him with a bit of Joker venom to give her the chance to knock him out. We follow Batman with Sarge as he's investigating a crime scene to find a different type of leaf that could cause a lot of issues, as he then tries to contact Nightwing but he doesn't get a response. Batman shrugs it off and then we see Nightwing tied to Harley's bed as she's talking to herself as Nightwing wakes up, and Harley ends up talking to him about her job applications. Harley ends up getting undressed but we see the two asses shot. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this. But she ends up coming up with the idea to have her way with him after he says no, even though he kinda wants to. Shit's fucking weird, but we contrast that with Poison Ivy kissing her professor as she has him under her mind control. Poison Ivy talks about her plan with the Floronic Man as they basically want to increase the rate that nature grows so it can take over. But as that's going on, Batman finds Harley and Nightwing tickling each other as he doesn't seem impressed and puts together the idea that they definitely did it, and this is kind of funny.
Did you get what you needed?
Well, yeah. Evie's whereabouts, of course.
Batman ends up telling Harley that she needs to agree with what he wants her to do, as without her help the planet would cease to exist. So Harley ends up getting in the Batmobile, where Batman explains what Ivy had been up to at the moment, as they're going to use the Swamp Thing virus to make the nature completely take over everything. As they're driving, Harley spots her henchman walking around as she gets out to try and get him, and this running cycle is goofy as fuck. It's up there with Linkara running to the camera, it's so funny. They end up catching up to the henchman as he falls into the garbage bin in an alleyway. When they have him, they take Harley away as it just seems like a dead end. They take her back to the Batmobile where Batman's sick of her shit, but she ends up convincing them to go to Bloodhaven to potentially find Ivy. As they go in there, Harley farts in the car with honestly one of the worst jokes ever.
Oh, man.
So they end up going to the place where Harley tells them to go to, as it seems like it's a hangout for all the henchmen. And holy shit, is that Captain Clown? Fuck yeah, it is. But I don't think it's actually Captain Clown since it's someone wearing a mask instead of it being a robot. But Two-Face's henchman is singing as Harley finds the henchman he's looking for named Shrubby, and they literally look like a shrub. Shrubby ends up making her sing to them all to get information out of him, and I find it odd that Harley's literally shaking her boobs at everyone as she's singing, since she hates working at Super Babes. Maybe Bruce Timm has the hots for his own creation? Who knows? But I like this little odd to the 66 Batman show where a goon decides to dance behind Batman copying Adam West's dance moves, until he gets punched. After the song, all the goons try and take down Batman and Nightwing as they kick the shit out of them. Speaking of Bruce Timm, who voices Bruce the Gold in this movie, where he ends up ringing Batman as he's in the Watchtower. He asks Batman if he needs his help. He says no, and after that we see that the formula Ivy and Floronic Man are working on actually starts to work until it ends up exploding. They end up finding out that they need the lake water that Swamp Thing lives in to fix the formula, as Batman, Nightwing and Harley break in to take them down. They fight for a bit until the place starts lighting up on fire as Floronic Man and Ivy run away with the formula and stab the Professor, as Batman, Nightwing and Harley barely live. They end up talking to the Professor just before he dies, where he ends up telling them what they're doing, as they need the swamp water from Swamp Thing to finish the formula. As it's going on, Batman and Nightwing are going to leave Harley there as she wants to go with him to Louisiana to deal with Ivy and Floronic Man. Batman ends up reluctantly letting her come, as they then catch up to Ivy and Floronic Man, where Harvey puts them in Ivy's trap as she says that Ivy should stop her plan. Harvey ends up blowing up the tree that Batman and Nightwing got pushed into, as Harley and Ivy fight as Batman and Nightwing take on Floronic Man. They fight for a good while until Ivy has Harley trapped, where she explains the solution as Harley tells her that she could kill everything if the formula doesn't work properly, since she hasn't tried it. Harley goes to her final resort, which is her crying, as it convinces Ivy to not use the formula as she confronts Floronic Man as he tries to hit her, and eventually overpowers Ivy. He gets the formula, Swamp Thing comes out to tell him that it isn't the way to fix the planet, but he basically just dips after telling Floronic Man that, and basically just fucking pointless. Batman and Nightwing try to come up with an idea to stop him, as Harley just tells him to use fire, as both Batman and Nightwing kiss her, and that's how the movie ends. Yeah, this movie definitely isn't good, but it isn't as bad as I remember it being. It's just over the top, extremely violent, and sexual for no reason, but as the actual movie goes, it's okay. I just find Harley to be really annoying in this movie, and not in an entertaining way. She's just the character that manages to get on my nerves in every scene, and that's just the way she's written. Definitely on the bottom of the list. So this is the one I've never seen, and it only came out 5 years ago as of recording this. So, let's give it a watch. It starts with a guy named Starboy running away from some men as he narrowly avoids them to catch up with Saturn Girl in a different version of Brainiac called Brainiac 5. But the men are breaking in as they manage to actually break in and steal the device, which is a time machine, and as they're using it, Starboy jumps in with them. They travel to Earth as they crash land, but Superman stops the device from hitting a boy as they seem to have fortified it. Starboy ends up going to a pharmacy where he scares the shit out of the pharmacist and eventually runs into Batman as he knocks him out. We then go to the woods where 3 people find someone digging a grave for a dead person. The man spots them and shoots 2 of them as the third one runs away. She ends up falling off the cliff to then wake up as we see that it's a nightmare. We find out that she's Jessica Cruz as she's struggling mentally after having to witness 2 of her friends getting shot right next to her. She goes to a therapist where we find out that it's been 3 years since that happened, but she doesn't want to do a new job and we find out that her new job is being a Green Lantern. As she's leaving, Wonder Woman approaches her. She asks why she's ignoring them and then she starts attacking her as she turns into a Green Lantern. Wonder Woman tells her that it wasn't an accident, that she has the power to help them. We then see Bloodsport as a terrorist as he's holding everyone hostage, as Miss Martian and Batman take him down, as Batman criticizes how she almost got them killed. Batman mentions that he doesn't want to do it with a teenager, and this is pretty funny. After that we end up at the Watchtower as Superman's with Mr. Terrific, as they're trying to find out what the thing is that crashed into Earth to see 3 men inside of it. They break out and start to fight as Superman gets his gut cut open, as Mr. Terrific has to help him out as the 3 men get away. We see Starboy in prison as he seems to actually be getting along with Two-Face, but he sees a news report of the people he came back in time with causing a ruckus as he seems to remember that he came from the future. He tries to break out as Batman ends up confronting him, but Starboy ends up escaping to try and find the men. Speaking of them, they're talking to some woman as she shows a hologram of herself as she's trapped in some kind of facility. We then see Superman with Wonder Woman and Mr. Terrific as Batman and Miss Martian come in where he tells them what they've found out. They find out that they're potentially after Jessica Cruz after Starboy said Limelight, which they think means Green Lantern, so they go to Portland, Oregon to help her out as Starboy's already there helping her. The Justice League come out as the 3 men introduce themselves. The red one is Mano, the half-man, half-robot is Tharok, and the other one's the Persuader, even though Wonder Woman cuts them off. They fight and eventually take Jessica where Wonder Woman and Mr. Terrific are chasing after them. Eventually Superman comes in and saves her as the 3 men run away. Later that night, Jessica ends up talking to Starboy where he tells her that she becomes Limelight and that she's the key, but he doesn't remember much else. We then see Mano, Tharok and Persuader as Tharok doesn't like how he's doing this all just to save his girlfriend, but Mano gets shitty at him. As it's going on, Batman gets Miss Martian to get him, her and Jessica into Starboy's mind to find out exactly what he knows. When in his mind, they end up at the Legion Museum where they see the original Justice League as statues. They eventually get to the Green Lantern room where they see a wall inside the brain as someone crashes through the wall. They see the three men as well as another two with them becoming the Furious Five, as they nearly defeat Legion, but the three men get away as they lock up the Empress by taking her to a different time to contain her. Saturn Girl asks if he's taken his meds, and he says that he will, but she says if he misses a few, he'll never be the same again. As that's going on, Batman's awoken to where the Furious Five is threatened to destroy cities unless they hand over Jessica. So the Justice League decides to go and stop them as Batman orders Jessica and Starboy to stay at the Watchtower. Bombs are going off in the city as they're all trying to save the people. But as Jessica's in the Watchtower, Thera contacts Jessica through the ring to tell her to come alone to where they are. She does as she sees the three men in the woods, so they tell her to come with them, otherwise they'll keep blowing up the city. She takes them to the planet Oa, as only a Green Lantern can take them through since there's a force field that only opens for a Green Lantern. They go to the prison cells as Persuader and Mano go with Jessica to let the two prisoners out, as Kilowog and another Lantern come out to help her to stop them. Eventually they overpower them as Mano forces Jessica to let Empress out as she stabs Kilowog and Persuader cuts Jessica's ring to where it doesn't work anymore as they all escape. So now the Fatal Five are together as they go through the planet's core to harness the full power of the Green Lantern Corps. The Justice League find out that Jessica's gone, as the Fatal Five get to the time machine after brutally killing quite a few guards, as they now want to kill all the potential heroes before they're born. The Justice League catch up as they fight them, and as that's going on, Miss Martian, Batman, and Mr. Terrific try to break in to stop the rest of them. We then see Jessica as she's stuck under some rubble, and ends up fixing the ring by saying the oath, and saving the two lanterns that are with her. After that, we're back at the fight as the Justice League deal with the two men outside, whilst Batman's dealing with Mano. Batman manages to kick his fucking ass, and then the Empress comes out with the eye as she electrocutes them all, but Jessica wakes up in her bed with the ring on. She quickly gets out to help the Justice League as she manages to stop them before they travel in time. They fight as she destroys the time machine and kicks their asses. As they stop them all, Superman tries to stop the eye, as Starboy tells Jessica that she needs to take him there as he can't do it. Superman almost catches up to the eye, but it ends up going into the sun. So Starboy sacrifices himself to hold the sun together, which ends up working. The movie ends with a funeral for Starboy as the people from the future come to visit his funeral, and that Miss Martian's accepted into the Justice League. This movie's alright. It's nothing amazing, but I find it weird how it's a lot more violent than what happens in the Justice League shows. It just feels weird to connect it to the DC animated universe in that regard, where heaps of guards and stuff are being stabbed, and even Superman's bleeding like crazy, which was a surprise. It isn't too over the top with the violence or language like Batman and Harley Quinn is, which is good, but I still wasn't interested in the characters themselves. Sure, you have the original Justice League members that showed up in the shows, but you don't know much about Jessica unless you've read the Green Lantern comics, and Miss Martian's never shown up in this universe until now. She was in Young Justice, but that doesn't connect to the Timm-Verse. Anywho, the plot itself of this movie is kind of standard where the villains just save two of their allies to basically destroy the superheroes, and it isn't that interesting. The best stuff is usually with the Justice League members and Miss Martian. They're the best characters in this movie. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not the best either. So, we've sat down and watched all the DC animated movies which are a part of what most fans like to call the Timm-Verse, which is named after the Batman animated series co-creator Bruce Timm. So how would I rank these movies? Well, let's start with the worst. Batman and Harley Quinn's at the bottom. What a surprise. But next is Batman Mystery of the Batwoman, Justice League vs. the Fatal Five, Batman and Mr. Freeze SubZero, Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, and then right at the top just by a little bit is Batman Mask of the Phantasm. They really peaked with the first movie, but they still made good movies until after the third one. Batman and Mr. Freeze SubZero is still good, but when you look at Return of the Joker and Mask of the Phantasm, they're genuinely fantastic movies. The crew behind those movies were at their peak around this time, and it really shows since after Return of the Joker, the quality of the movies fell off quite a lot. Look at Return of the Joker compared to Mystery of the Batwoman, and the difference is night and day. It was bound to happen, but things got worse when the crew didn't all come back for Batman and Harley Quinn, where a lot of things seemed off, and even still did quite a bit with Justice League vs. the Fatal Five. But you know what? I absolutely cherish what Mask of the Phantasm and Return of the Joker did with the characters of Batman, and the stories they created for those movies since they're amazing. Anywho, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like the video, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below what you thought about this video. Anyways, let's just get into the shoutouts. Massive thanks to Spoopeth, Madeline Stringer, Smugly, and Jack Russell for supporting my cheeky little funds tier. Massive thanks to Ash Crimson for supporting my channel license tier. Lastly, massive thanks to Fatima, Sam M1994, and Victoria Huntley for supporting my Big Boss tier. If you want to find out how you can support me, click the little Patreon logo on the screen at the moment, or click the little join button next to the subscribe button. Anyways, I'll see you on the next video.